Hi everybody, my name is Arunjana. I'm a doctoral student at American University. And thank you. I also volunteer with the transgender community in Northeast India. My story today is actually about that community, which is why I feel that I should frame it a little bit. As you can tell, the scope is very different from the wonderful stories that you've heard today. So my story is a spoken word presentation of the struggles faced by 3 specific transgender individuals from Northeast India. And they talked to me about their struggles in education and in the workplace, but I also try to bring out some of the aspects of the legal infrastructure in India, which is colored by the post-colonial experience of the country. And these aspects, they color the transgender experience in very complex ways, and I'll try to bring up some of those aspects as well. Also, I have permission to share their stories, although I'll be changing their names. I would also like to clarify my positionality with respect to this community. I am not from the community, I am simply an ally, and I see my role as a messenger to just bring their stories to you. So the story is called Let the Subaltern Speak. As you guys know, subaltern is a term used in sociology which is really an underprivileged identity, a marginalized identity, and as we all know, the LGBT population is one of those, identities, one of those communities. So here it goes. Let the subaltern speak. You need to put on pants and look like a man, else you won't have gainful employment. And please modulate your voice if you can, to shield me from your identity predicament. She heard this in job interviews and school restrooms, where she was raped, constantly for 8 years, by those who upon her preyed. I accepted my fate, she says, even though it hurt. More than my body, it was my mind and my soul that burned. The subaltern is muted, but not her spirit and she. As others dropped out, she persevered with an English honors degree. Meet Elaine, who challenges us with the question, what is the price of discrimination in a nation where, although race, gender, and sexuality are a historical plurality, but constrained by imperialist legalism, they are judged as a criminality. The price, she says, is a soul that is called inappropriate, inauspicious, and inchoate. Denied the right to be a teacher, a doctor, or to be a poet. Instead, she is asked to open a beauty salon. For, of course, now that she's a woman, she'll be judged for her hair, her body, and her fine form. Not her skills in math, science, law, and business, but how well, while she cuts your hair, she displays finesse. Let the subaltern speak. Let her be the mistress of her future, without the fear of being abused by a coworker or a peer. Meet Rekha. Her family calls itself respectable and gentil, full of doctors, engineers, and a few with PhD. Join the fashion industry is their advice. Being with those other gays and lesbians for you should suffice. They send Rekha away, for embracing her cureness in public might result for them in social suicide. So they sent her away to a boarding school, where she, with her struggles, could reside. She says, I love my parents, even though they don't understand me. Or my goal to get a degree in forestry instead of the fashion industry. But my boyfriend did. He said he understood me. I loved him. He said he understood me. Until one day, he left me. He said I was too manly. Let the subaltern speak. Let her voice her pain of the love she lost and her heart slain. My friend Harish prefers the pronoun he and him. He says, I prefer being a man in public and choose not to cross-dress. It saves me from public duress, although in private causes tremendous distress. The media and the public think it's comical to put a gay or transgender individual in a musical and make them into characters offering comic relief. For who wants to hear their stories of sorrow and grief? Who wants to know if they were brutally murdered or killed themselves in despair, or alone on the streets died for lack of medical care? Harish works with people living with AIDS, especially for folks that get marginalized, on lines that are sexual or genderized. Let the subaltern speak. Let him care for the native and the fugitive, turned out by their families for being HIV positive. What does justice for these individuals look like? Pushed out of the formal economy and out of our life. Justice calls for the contestation of the discrimination that is Section 377 of the Indian Constitution. Carrying a sentence for life imprisonment for unnatural offense, sex against the order of nature, and without procreation and consequence. A remnant of the colonial era and a false extension of Christian purity, employed to aggrandize the self and abuse the other in the land of many colors and multiplicity. Justice calls for the challenging of the colonial narrative that sees gender and sexual binaries as normative, to which the Indian consciousness is socialized. Although the Supreme Court has now legalized the social collective of a third gender, same-sex orientation is still seen as a foreign danger. Let the subaltern speak. Let her stories be heard, however macabre, without a mouthpiece to act as her savior and her father. Let the subaltern speak. Let her have her space in the boardroom, classroom, and in society, without subjecting her to expectations of normative propriety. Let the subaltern speak. Don't make her choose between the person she loves and religious celibacy. For what's the point of living if you can't be yourself and love another completely and freely? Let the subaltern speak.